Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod BBQ podcast. On this episode, we have Tom Porter and Lyle Brummer from Speedkore. Now, you know Speedkore. These are the guys that are building some of the most insane cars on the planet. Remember that mid-engine Charger in Fast and the Furious? Yeah, they built that. Remember the Tantrum Charger? Kevin Hart's car? All these cars, the Ghost that just came out, the 70 Charger. These are some of the most beautiful, best performing coach built cars that I've ever seen. So, guys, welcome to the podcast. How's everybody doing today?
Hey,
Thanks for
good.
having us.
Thanks for having us.
So, all right, let's dive into this. Speedkore. Walk us through the process of how you guys started, because to see one of your cars in person, it's not just seeing a car, it's truly seeing an art piece that is beyond functional. So, tell us how Speedkore got its start.
Well, I think the easiest way to it's kind of a chronology, but about 9 years ago, Jim Kazmarek, the gentleman that owns Speedkore, started the business. It's an offshoot of a larger company that he owns called Capco Metal Stamping, and among other businesses. Speedkore is just one of, I believe, about 15 companies that he holds in something called Kazmarek Enterprises.
Mhm.
And it's a fantastic business. We were afforded the luxury of having these other companies around us that allow us to source certain aspects of what we do within our company. All the holding companies.
Mhm.
And we'll get more into that later, but
Sure.
it was the idea really came from Jim's passion in muscle cars. He's got a really unique collection of cars, and just wanted to continue building cars and recognize that he has several resources internally, and this made the most sense to kind of develop this arm. So in the last 9 years, he's brought in staff from drag racing routes, from Wyotech up in
Mhm.
Wyoming. I think we've got 3 or 4 guys from that campus. Lyle, his engineering background. I have some composite background. I'm probably the mud of the group, but that works out fine. And but yeah, it's just an eclectic team of artisans that are putting these cars together and coming up with the concepts. And Jim fully supports what we do, so it's
That
really pretty cool.
that's fantastic. I mean, you guys, if you guys didn't have the passion for this, you couldn't build the cars that you have because they are absolutely exquisite. I mean, I've been in this hobby a long time. I've seen builds from just about every builder out there. I've driven cars from just about every builder out there. Um, you guys are on a different plane, I think. Um, so is the owner Jim, is he a Mopar guy? Is that how the whole Charger thing came about, or did that car just kind of make sense?
He's not necessarily. Actually, I don't even think he has a Mopar in his collection at the moment. But Mopar came because the first car we built was Tantrum. It was a
Right.
9 liter 70 Charger. And it was so outrageous that it sort of defined us a little bit.
Yeah.
After that, we were doing other builds, and um, with some of our manufacturing background, we recognize right away that when you're going to produce or invest in the production of carbon fiber tooling and molds, that you can't do it effectively by having 4 or 5 different makes of different cars. The investment is just really, really large. So when we started to do the Mopar cars, we recognized that to do this properly and the most efficiently and monetize it as best as possible, that we had tooling in the 70s. We were going to expand that to 69s and 68s, much of which is retroactively fits.
Mhm.
And then let's build the best possible versions of those cars we can. And
Okay.
so once we kind of cleaned up our tooling, We revise that all the time. The frame designs are on, I think, our fourth or fifth revision now. It affords us this refinement process to build the nicest cars, and Ghost is really the penultimate for us. I mean, every one gets better, really.
Right.
So
So let me ask you. So Tom, you're the
yeah,
senior business development manager, and
yeah,
Lyle, you're the director of design, correct?
Right.
Okay. So when these cars come about, are they commissions, or is somebody coming to you and saying, "Okay, this is what I want," um, and because the Ghost is painted, and that's not something that would, I mean, the car, first of all, I want to tell everybody that you really need to go to the Speedkore website and you need to do some research online and look at the cars that are bare carbon, because it's not you're just putting carbon panels together. Every weave lines, I've never seen carbon fiber work to the extent that Speedkore does it, with the attention to detail, and that it is a coherent pattern throughout the whole build. So when Ghost came out and it was painted, I was like, wait a minute, which was a little different. But Lyle, how does that come about? When a customer comes to you, a client comes to you and says, listen, I want this car. Do they basically just say, this is what I want, and then hand it off to you, and then you dictate everything? Or how much input do they actually have into the design of the vehicle?
Yeah, so it does vary by each person. There are people that are really interested in the nitty gritty. Good example of that would be Ralph Giles.
Sure.
Of course, this is his life, this is his career, and he was very involved in that project,
Yeah.
and which was great. I mean, great experience for sure. Now, when we talk about Ghost, the owner of that car was a lot more hands off. We would more so present to him what our ideas are and refine it from there. So his inputs were there, but at a different level.
Gotcha. Okay. When people come, and Ralph is a perfect example of this, because Ralph is one of the best designers, well, just period. He's just one of the best automotive build designers on the planet. So his attention to detail is unbelievable, not only because he does this for a living, but he's also a racer.
Mhm.
Performance is really in his genes. So was that a difficult thing? Like when you have a client like Ralph come to you and say, okay, this is what I want, and you know that he knows what design and performance is that intimidating at all? Or is that something you go, okay, we could totally step up on this?
Yeah, I wouldn't say intimidating, encouraging, because Ralph's a great guy.
Yeah.
It's more of a collaboration at that point. So
Yep.
it's right down to trading sketches. When we're developing the hood or some of the interior features, picking colors. We're trading that information back and forth, and it's a good dialogue that way. And so it was a very good opportunity.
Gotcha. So when, I mean, I had the opportunity to see Ralph's car in person, and it is just a stunning piece. The interior is another, and that we need to talk about that, because the interior of these cars are, people talk about cars like Singers and all these other coach built cars. The work that you do is just, it's really kind of mind bending. As a Mopar guy, I've got two Chargers, right? So I know these cars like the back of my hand. Every time I see another version of another Charger that you guys do, it's a constant son of a bitch. Like it gets better and better. For me, it's really annoying, right? But it's also super inspiring, because to see the amount of detail you put, that it's got to be like, how many hours how many hours would you have in an interior of a car?
So the interiors, yeah. So like anything, it starts with renderings,
Hmm.
the concept, but then the hours pile on in that production. So we'll work to basically get the panels made.
Hmm.
As you've seen on our cars, the door panels, interior quarters, dash is all also made of carbon fiber. So then, of course, build components to support that: door handles, gauges,
Right.
center consoles, things of that sort. So ultimately, it boils down to hundreds of hours. There's, of course, the planning stage, and then working with our partners to actually create the interiors. Now, when we speak of Ghost, that was done with a company here in Wisconsin, Amanda Marie's Upholstery. And then with Ralph's car, that was Gabe's out in California. So they're
Gotcha.
presented with sketches and renderings, and then it's that same dialogue. We'll visit them on site, see how the progress is going, and help steer that conversation. But again, it all starts with the rendering and concepts.
Okay. Now, as far as sourcing other vendors for these products, right? When you talk about doing interiors and when you talk about things like brakes and chassis components, suspension components and stuff like that, your cars are at such a high level. Is it difficult to find other craftsmen that share your vision or that can deliver on what you need to deliver to the client?
Yeah.
Or
Oh, go ahead.
or
Yeah.
is that stuff, or are they out there? And have you found that because you hold your vehicles to such a high standard, they're having to up their game a little bit?
It's very much a vetting process. We're familiar with their work. In the case of Gabe's, we've used them for years. So
Hmm.
we developed, again, that relationship. And so much of this business is relationships. So you build that history and that trust. So that really helps set that expectation for us.
Okay. In some of the cars that you built, I mean, like Hellacious was in Fast and the Furious, right? The mid-engine Charger. That came out and I think set just everybody just they built a what? Right? Because when you think of that, I mean, a Charger is a big car. Now you've got a Hellcat engine sitting behind the driver's seat. It's about as raw as they come.
Right.
But what I think is one of the coolest parts is that every car that I've seen you build, these are not showpieces. These are absolutely functional. Get in, go wherever you want, anytime. Ralph's got like 6 or 7,000 miles on his car. Like he drives the hell out. We went to Barrett Jackson. He drove the goddamn thing to dinner and let the valet park it, which I thought was insane. Ralph, God bless you. That's the most amazing thing I've ever
Yeah.
seen. But he just wheels the hell out of that thing. And I love the fact that your customers drive these cars and that you engineer them to the fact that you're just like, yeah, man, just get in and go. It's fine.
Yeah, and we appreciate that as well. Ralph is a little bit unique in a fantastic way. For example, when we delivered that car to him, we met at Gingerman Raceway over in Michigan.
Great.
That was halfway for each of us, and that day we went out on the track in the car, and Ralph betted the brakes and had a great time. And we all had a great time. So it's fantastic for us to be able to see these cars perform because they're built to perform. They're built to be driven and driven hard for that matter. When
Yeah.
you talk about 700 or 1,000 horsepower and big Brembo brakes and, coilover shocks on everything, it's designed to be driven and driven hard. And it's awesome to see like Ralph's car out on Gingerman Raceway. This is a big car. He's spoken highly of how the car handles, riding in it and driving them. When we were out in California with Ghost, we had to get out there and put some mileage on it because, well, we're from
Yep.
Wisconsin. Wisconsin in
Right.
February is not very good. So driving around Southern California, the car, turn heads, but that's what it's all about. Get in and I'm driving. That's the intention here.
How is when you're starting to develop, because you're basically, these cars are developed from scratch, right? You have your own bespoke chassis, everything on there isn't a piece on this car. At least I don't think there is that's stock, right? Almost every little thing is touched or massaged or
Every bolt,
Yeah.
any and everything that you can think of
yeah.
is new.
So when you're doing that, do you go over performance expectations with the client? So, and do you ever try to kind of pull the reins back on them? Because let's face it, like I know Ralph's car has an elephant in it. That's 1,000 horsepower, man. That is for any human being, that is an enormous amount of power to stuff in a car. So, and it takes skill to pilot one of these vehicles. Um, do you get people that sometimes come in and they're like, I want 1,000 horsepower and I want this? You just like, well, back up. Let's, like, do you have to set their expectations, or do you work with them and say, well, that might be a little too much or too little for that matter?
Tom, I'll
You
let you
know,
speak to that.
yeah. Yeah. You get all types requesting all sorts of things, but I think the simplest way is, we vet the client as much as they vet us,
Hmm.
so we kind of look at, who they are, where where are they going to be driving this car? What other things do they have in their collection? What, who is this guy? or gal in this, whatever that might
Yeah.
be. And so to this point, we've really never had to kind of detune or kind of de-escalate a project too much.
Hmm.
I think the numbers speak for themselves when you talk about the weight, the power, and the dollar amount. The cars are not cheap, so
Right.
oftentimes, a client's pretty set in what they want to do. Um, and when you start to get into the process of developing a scope of work around a project, things kind of come to the surface. But we get a lot of tire kickers that it never goes any further than that. I think that
Right.
that's pretty common in the business.
Right. Dude, are people, I mean, having seen the cars up close and in person, I think, when did you guys debut Tantrum? That was at SEMA, right?
Yeah,
That was
2000.
2015. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I remember seeing that car in person, and it redefined what a pro touring slash custom American car could be. It really did. It just it was a visual and engineering reset. And what I find interesting is that every car that you've built to come after that has been an evolution of that. And some are, like Alessia's was a totally different style build, right? That felt so raw and so mechanical and just as a piece of brute force. Where you look at something like Ghost and you go, all that force is there, but yet it's very elegant,
Yeah.
and it is just such a wonderful piece to actually look at. Um, but when clients come to you, because you've done other cars in the past, like I know you've built, for Downey, you did a beautiful E9 BMW and you did a Camaro. So we're not just talking Chargers. You guys build basically anything, is that correct? Or will you consider to build anything?
We will, absolutely. Our backlog in the demand is just in the B body space right now.
Hmm.
Um, and without sounding too egotistical, I know why. People want them, and there's a lot we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
And there's still more refinement to go. The but are we open to doing other stuff? Absolutely. The one of the barriers, though, and it maybe not for our clients, is the investment in tooling to
Mm,
create carbon fiber, exteriors for these cars that that's could be a $400,000 tooling investment.
right.
It's not cheap to do that. It's they're scanning. There's the original donor. There's scanning. There's all the refinement in the CAD development to make them tool ready, and then to actually make master plugs from say Ren board or composite board where possible, and then from there you're pulling molds, and then you're creating parts at that point. So it's a huge process when you think of how big these cars are and how many different panels there are. I mean, it's a big investment. So if a client wants to go that route, absolutely, we can do it. We're happy to do it. But at the same time, you can you know, get in line for a B body car, and we're tooled. It's not an
Right.
investment you necessarily need to make, and you're going
Right.
to really benefit from that, from project time to the monetary side of it, and you get uh, the fact that we've been able to refine the process. Every car continues to be better than the next. It's just
Yeah.
the as you said, the evolution of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's really interesting. When I started, we were building cars all over the map. And again, we kind of looked at this and said, we're known for these B body cars. We've got a backlog of some of these. It was primarily what we had. Let's focus on that. Let's make it our goal to be the best or one of the best in the world at these
Hmm.
types of cars. And that's been our goal all along. So now we're starting to kind of morph into some differentiators in the B body stuff, like the Ghost painted car, very unique. but you get all the performance benefits, of the carbon fiber weight reduction, but you
Right.
also have the ability to see wonderful paint craftsmanship over the top of carbon. And it's a throwback color to a 69 Alpine white. I mean, it's everything that those cars were. There was just a few of them in that era, in that color. And they're statements. They're just statements. Yeah. So, we love exposed weave, but it's very, very challenging to do, as
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're not done with those by any stretch, but it is fun to have the diversification. So,
right.
I'll leave you. Well, I won't leave you, but in my old life, I worked in the bicycle industry, and we made carbon fiber components for bicycles, and everything was exposed weave in the beginning, including the wheels and the frames. And eventually that became sort of played out.
Yeah.
We kind of saw like all of a sudden custom suppliers and people, end consumers wanted paint over carbon. They want the high quality paint work again. If you go to a Grand National Roadster show this year, you see just the most incredible paint work being done, and plating processes and things like that. And that's really what this customer was looking for. He wanted that benefit to the carbon fiber weight, but he wanted a car that was in color. And so we're happy to do that sort of thing for them.
Well, what is the weight on these cars? Like, what does Ghost weigh in at?
It weighs 3950.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty good actually. When you
that's
consider
full of fuel. Yeah, it's topped off, ready to go. They're pretty consistent within about, I want to say 50 pounds a car, depending on manual or automatic trans, a couple other differentiators. But yeah, they're very, very consistent, sub 4,000 pounds. So
let me ask you, what, it used to be years ago, if we go back, say, I don't know, from go back to like early 2000s, 1990, when the Europeans were really coming on strong, right? You had Porsche that was making some of the most beautiful cars, Mercedes, BMW was making some exquisite machines and all this other stuff. In the custom world, you had, certain companies were churning it out. But now it seems like we have some American companies that are turning out some of the nicest and best coach-built cars on the planet. And it seems like there's a shift in the tide where a lot of people used to be like, well, I want this, this perfect Porsche or this perfect whatever the case is. And now they're like, yeah, no, I want this perfect Dodge. And I think, which is a very interesting thing. Obviously loving these cars and being a diehard muscle car enthusiast, but you're seeing Camaros and Chargers and Chevelles taken to levels that I don't care who you are. If you're in the design world and you're in the manufacturing, you have to look at and go, that's unbelievable.
yeah.
How does that feel to be at that level?
I mean, we're honored, again, it's for us, it's a culmination of the guys we have, I have the liberty of being able to manage a shop, but it's the guys that are doing the day in, day out work. And they're just incredible artisans, and they care so much, are so passionate about it. And I think that that's what you see in these builds. And the guys that are doing other, really, really strong pro touring American muscle cars, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
It's just, it's passion for these people and for us. And I'm a huge fan of European cars and European builds. I've always loved British American hybrids and things like that. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. What I see, coming through Grand National Roadster Show, SEMA, a lot of the Good Guys events, I'm blown away. I'm blown away at the artisanship that, and to me, that's, the Wyotechs of the world. We've got young kids that are coming through these programs, and they are so well trained. I mean, they truly have the skill sets, and they have the passion to do it. And they see if they're in the right organization, there's opportunities for them to grow, get cross trained. They can, at Speedkore, we've got 9 guys in the shop. 4 of them can work in other areas. So, and that's the way we have to do it. And they want to learn. They want to be able to do
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like where one guy might be in composites helping out making a 70 Charger body kit. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, I need you over in the paint shop. Okay. And he can just switch over and go, and he can work in that department. And other guys have the fab skills, other guys may have the mechanical skills. And you know we, like I said, it's great to see, because I think 10 years ago, even 20 years ago, it might have been fading a little bit. You might not have
Mhm.
seen the resurgence like you're seeing now, but I feel like it's very healthy. you know
Yeah.
People are also willing to pay in this country what you have to charge for these cars. We're not cheap.
Right.
But people understand it, and there is a clientele that has the level of income that they can afford to buy works of art, and they want to, and maybe
Mhm.
they've already bought those European classics that they want.
Sure.
Oftentimes our customer says, I want a American Muscle. I want this in my collection. Okay, cool. Well, you're at the right place, and he hangs up with me and he calls Jimmy and Mike Ring or whoever it might be,
Right. Right.
So we have those conversations all the time. But no, I think it's healthy. I think that I love whatever everybody other companies are doing. And Yeah, that's, I guess, all there is to that. So
No,
I think
it's interesting. I was going to ask Lyle, do you see um how have the cars been received? And I'm sure you've gotten feedback, but from kind of the European audiences, because there are so many beautiful design features that are somewhat European that you've incorporated into these cars that have just kind of melded this world of American muscle cars with this elegance of European design. So, you know,
yeah, that's pretty interesting you bring that up. But something I wanted to revisit quickly about how this market has changed, and a big player in that is technology.
yeah.
Technology has really brought forward a lot of the advancement that we see. Now, by technology, I mean uh, design softwares, CNC machines, scanning technologies. All these things became more accessible. 3D printing would be another example. Having that accessibility, and then a younger audience that is drawn to that. There's still, you may be working on a screen, but there's still a lot of craft to it, because at the end of the day, that part is still going to be made. So
Right.
having that technology and those tools available, and then going onto your CNC machine or your 3D printer and printing that out or machining it is still an amazing step in this process. And it's opened up a whole different identity of creation, I'll put it.
Interesting.
Because before, when you looked at things, I won't say old school, but the old ways were, how am I going to fabricate this? I'm going
Right.
to,
yeah,
They're old. That's
sketch
fine.
it on it, right? I'm going to draw it on a piece of paper, make some templates, and hand cut it out. Well, now we have, we can cut hundreds of pieces in minutes on a laser machine, and it all fits together perfectly. When we talk about our frames, they're all tabbed. They go together almost like Legos. Um, so that's an important step that came into all this. Now, back to your point about, say, the other audiences beyond Americans. We've had the experience of SEMA. Grand National Roadster Show actually draws a lot of people from outside the country.
Yeah.
So when you speak to these people, it's like they're just as fascinated as the American audience, because it's something they may not see all the time for sure, but they also have a different aesthetic. So they look at things perhaps a little bit differently, but also appreciate things a little bit differently. So that's been very rewarding.
Okay. That's interesting. It's when you talk about the people like the clientele that's coming in, it seems that now, where it used to be guys were just so hell bent on being like, no, it's got to have a big block. It's got to be this and this. I feel like now, like for me, now I want convenience. I want, turn key or push the starter button. I
right.
want, first and foremost, I want reliability. I want it to be as sometimes quiet and as elegant as possible, but then I want it to turn to an axe murderer when I want it to. And and I think a lot of it just has to go with age. Right? There's a lot of gray hair on his face, and that gray hair is the result of my past life, what I used to do, how hard that I used to go at things. And now I'm like, you know what? I still want all the beauty and the muscle of these vehicles, but I want to calm down a little bit, right? I
Yeah,
want Jekyll and I want Hyde and in the same package, and I want to be able to flip this switch and get them both,
yeah,
at my own command. And
yeah.
I think what you guys are doing with these vehicles is offering that, but in a wrapper that is uh, just fantastic. I mean, it's wonderful to see. It's just absolutely
And,
wonderful.
right, and the points that you're speaking to, uh, ride quality. How how well does this car turn? How are the pitch and the roll characteristics of this? Does it stop well?
Right.
Of course, a lot of cars can go like hell in a straight line, but there's other things that are expected now. I do want it to turn. I want to go cruising it, or in Ralph's case, I want to take it to the track. So it has to be more of all of the above. Yet I want to listen to some music. I want to be comfortable, meaning warm, or I want to be cool, So that those are all important things. Power window, our power doors, our power trunk, all these things that make it that it's an experience that's smooth. It's not this big compromise in factors that you would have to in the past, you know.
Yeah, well,
So
I think you guys are kind of redefining what a coach-built American muscle car can be. I think you guys are setting the standard for what they can be. And it's as an enthusiast, it's great to see that. And understanding that, you have to make a certain amount of money to kind of dive into this pool. But knowing that the pool is there, I think is one of the best things because it elevates every other facet of the industry up. And it's very inspiring and it's very, you know, unique to say, my God, one day I would love to be able to experience one of these vehicles. Or, it's just a very, very cool thing as an enthusiast to witness coming from carburation and then going to EFI. And then all of a sudden we've got carbon fiber and now we're direct injection. And all of this technology is just coming together to make
Right.
stuff that 15 years ago was even unthinkable. And
mhm.
now it's there. And it really kind of makes you go, "Oh, Jesus, what's going to happen in the next 20 years?" Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, what do you guys have in the pike? What other, I don't know if you can talk about it because I know when you do, most of the stuff is secret, but are you playing around now with going further with carbon fiber or different composites and playing around with other cars, different makes and models now?
Yeah, so Tom can speak a lot to this, but yeah, we have other cars in the pipeline that you'll learn when they come out or so. But are they the same as before? No, they're actually not. But the other thing, as a company that we've done, we ventured forth into the Harley Davidson space. So, Tom, you want to speak to that?
I couldn't exactly hear you, but say that again, Lyle.
I was just talking about the Harley stuff that we started
Oh
last
yeah,
year.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, um, one of kind of an offshoot of what we do at Speedkore, was being in the Milwaukee area. We
Hmm.
have, we're surrounded by Harley Davidson and enthusiasts here, and um, the about a year ago we started to recognize that this might be a market that we'd be interested in, and so we followed the same approach that we do to building a car. We did kind of our a detailed market evaluation, kind of looking at the space, and we recognized that there wasn't a extremely high quality carbon supplier in the bagger motorcycle
Hmm.
space. So once we recognized that, we decided that we were going to get into it. It was driven by a couple factors. One is when we're building muscle cars, we generate quite a bit of extra scrap
Hmm.
carbon fiber in small pieces, and a lot of it would be scrap. because there aren't pieces for cars that we can make from these composite extras. So that was a windfall for us, because instead of throwing stuff out, we could start to make really cool motorcycle parts. The other was it's Harley Davidson's right here in our backyard.
Right.
And we have a cool story to tell. And so we developed a line of 10 different components that fit on Harley Davidson road glides and street glides.
Nice.
Yeah, and we followed the same process that I described. We scan, we create our own styling, we then tool it, and we start to produce parts. We can 3D print all the fasteners that are required. So these parts have tremendous OE fitment. You know, they replicate OE fitting, and they have superior UV protection. Some of our parts all exceed over 3,000 hours of UV certification, and they're just nice components to put on a bike. It takes a Harley and it dresses it up, and that's really what we wanted to do. We love the look of the bikes, but we just felt like we could make it even better. So yeah, that's absolutely an important point to bring up, Lyle, for sure.
And I think another important fact behind that is that, you know, within our staff, we have people that are diehard riders. You know,
Yeah.
there was something that appealed to them. The other thing is that a lot of guys who love cars love motorcycles too, because there's a lot of creativity in the space as well. You know, there's some great builders of bikes out there. One of our employees has built a pretty darn interesting bike, you know, and he continues to build others. And that's, again, speaking to people's passion. That's the important part.
Mike,
Oh.
I don't know that you follow Harleys too close, but Harley Davidson just dropped a new model in 24, a new bagger, road glide and a street glide. And so that's one of the programs that we're developing right now, is seeing what we were producing for 23 and what fits in 24. And we're going to continue to expand on that. You know, we love the King of the Baggers series. We love everything about like that Milwaukee culture, that Wisconsin relationship. It's great. Like Lyle said, we have guys that are riding. I mean, they rode today in the rain on their bike. You know, there's also, you know, in this community, there's a lot of designers, people that we can use. The vendor base is strong in support for what we're doing. And it just makes sense culturally. It really, Speedkore is right here. It's a cool story for us too. So,
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I'm a bike guy too. I've probably had 30 motorcycles over the years. You know, I always say the motorcycle is kind of the gateway into the automobile, right? To an extent.
right.
If you are a bike guy, you're gonna cut. I don't care if you ride a sports bike, if you ride a Euro bagger, if you ride a Harley, it doesn't matter. Guys are going to customize. Owners are going to customize. They want their individual touches to be on these things,
Yeah.
and I mean, it translates seamlessly. To be perfectly honest, but like, that's obviously where you should also be, because guys are looking for that, and they're looking for those performance enhancements, right? Yes, they want the aesthetics too, but there's something wonderful about carbon fiber, right? Much lighter, stronger. There are benefits to it as well.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
good for you guys. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 pounds off a bike is a game
It's
changer.
huge.
I mean, it's substantial. And you know, the two front rear fenders set that we are in the works of completing the rear now, but those two things take that much weight off the bike. I mean, it's spectacular. You know, it's a real performance upgrade. So
Yeah. And honestly, especially like you said, I mean, muscle car culture, motorcycle culture here in the States, they really do go hand in hand.
yeah,
Odds are, if if somebody's got a motorcycle, they're gonna buy an American muscle car. If they have an American muscle car, they were into motorcycles until they either fell off or their wife got mad at them and gave it away. Like,
right.
I've been down both roads, so I totally get it.
Yeah.
But that's outstanding, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
you're doing stuff that's really aspirational, and as an enthusiast, to see the cars that you're building year after year, More importantly, to see that they're being used by the owners, I think is the one of the most important things. Because if you see a stock car, you go, that's really beautiful. If you see a fully coach built one, it really kind of takes the dream to the next level. And I think you guys are really creating a next level of poster cars. And that's big.
Thanks.
That's very, very big.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's great to
So
see him getting driven. You know, when Ralph showed up and, you know, he said, I want a second set of wheels for the car with, you know, road racing slicks on them. We were like,
that's awesome.
oh yeah, this is,
Yeah.
you're a match made in heaven for us, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, if anybody, you know, track day is what we're all about, you know,
Yeah.
um, you know, a guy like you that loves to drive his car cross country all the time and do this sort of things. That's what these cars are meant for.
Oh
Is
yeah. Well,
what they're
I'll
for.
throw this out there. Like, you know, I'm fortunate enough that we're going to be doing a hood for the Daytona that we've got coming.
Yeah.
And like one of the biggest things was when I first spoke to Tom and Lyle's, what do you do with the car? And I beat the crap out of it and just abuse it. And you know, to have any part right on of a Speedkore part on the car to me is a really kind of aspirational thing. So it's so cool because it's just another talking point where I want people to ask questions and inquire. And why did you do this? This is the reason. Does it hold up? Yes, it does. Does it do this? So it's just great. It's just another facet to move the hobby forward and get people more interested in these cars and get them built and drive them and take the hobby to, you know, the next step in its evolution, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely.
So guys, where can everybody find you? Where can they find all the information about Speedkore, whether it's social, whether it's net? Where can we find you?
You can find us at, you know, speedcore.com, and there's an email there, speed@speedcore.com. That comes right into me, or to my coworker Keaton. Um, you can, anything you see on our website, in a build, potentially we can make it. We can
Hmm,
make it. And the question will be is where are you at in your build and whether you can integrate it into the build. Um, you know, if you're gonna, for example, if you wanted a set of our bumpers, you're gonna want to tuck those bumpers. But if you're body working the quarters and the front fenders, perfect timing. That's what we do. We have offer them available in primer, in exposed weave, gloss, or satin clear, or we can do custom. It really just depends. That's why we don't list everything on our website because there's too many variations. What we
gotcha.
say is call us and we can work through pretty much provide a solution for anything you're looking for. So
That's very now is that on just Chargers or is that pretty much you got a Camaro, you got a this, you got a that?
it's primarily Chargers, but there are select builds on our site that we have all the tooling for. If you see it on our site, you go, oh, I'm interested in that. I wonder if they make that. You can reach out to us that way. If you have a build or you're a pony builder building a car for somebody else and he wants a one-off hood, that's exactly what we can do. Um,
Hmm,
Follow the same process. We would need some really good original artwork. And from there, we can then create tooling and create a part that'll fit that car, you know, exclusively. So, yeah, it all just depends on kind of the scope of the build of a consumer or a shop. So we can support all that way.
that's outstanding. Well, you
Yeah.
know, Lyle, go
Um,
ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think what Tom's speaking to is, you know, we're known for carbon fiber, which means we've made a significant investment in that. All our products are cured in an autoclave, pre-preg. So there's all these factors that come into play when you talk about creating carbon fiber parts. We have that knowledge, we have that investment in equipment. If you need support on something, we're not looking to put our name on it. We're just looking to support the community.
That's fantastic. It really is. So guys,
It's a good thing
thank
Lyle's here today because he puts all the good finished touches on everything I'm saying. It's exactly what I needed. Thanks,
Well,
Lyle.
yeah, but that's really nice. I mean, the fact of the matter is, basically what you're saying is if you can dream it, we can do it. And
Pretty much.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's pretty cool in this day and age. So, you know, Tom, Lyle, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh,
maybe one of these days I could get out to you because I really need to plant my ass in the seats of one of your cars at some point.
Love
That's
to
a
have
dream.
you. Love to have you.
Absolutely.
And we'll have your hood ready for you soon, buddy. So
Nice.
looking forward to that.
So looking forward to it. Guys, thank you. For those out there, go to the Speedkore website, go to the IG pages, look at what they do. And if anything, let the work that they do be an inspiration to you in whatever facet of the build you're at or you want to achieve. Because without companies like Speedkore, sometimes imagination stalls a little bit. And these guys are part of the reason that imagination keeps going forward. So, guys, thanks for coming on. And we'll see you next time on the Hot Rod Barbecue.
Thanks for
having us.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast and hit that subscribe button. And we'll come to you every week.